Hello and good morning, everybody, and welcome to Hangouts and Headlines here in Virtual Legality on Tuesday, August 16th, 2022. How is everybody doing? Seems like just 3 minutes ago we were here together on Monday morning, and now we're here together on Tuesday morning. Time just flies when you're having fun, doesn't it? And today we've got a story that is interesting, not just for the headlines, which are a little bit sensational, but also because of the story itself. Am I a cyborg lawyer? Will I soon be a cyborg lawyer? Should I be like a Johnny Mnemonic type cyborg? Should I be a cyberpunk cyborg? All of these options are arrayed before us, and you can help tell me what kind of cyborg lawyer I should be. But in all honesty, the article today that we're going to discuss, as well as the primary source material, which is kind of a white paper think piece type thing from something called the Law Society in what I believe is England and Wales, if I'm recalling the references correctly. You folks in the UK can correct me on that if you know better than I do, is about the future of lawyering. And I have my thoughts, obviously, and we'll talk about them a little bit. We're not going to read through what amounts to, I think it's like a 27-page paper, but we are going to talk about it a little bit because these kinds of things are interesting to me, right? As Genuine Joy says here, microchips in brains, happy Tuesday. What could be more utopian and not at all dystopian than suggesting that all lawyers, in order to compete to earn a living, would have to chip their brains? Something to look forward to, I guess. Well, I am known for brains here in Virtual Legality. Not my own, of course, but the zombie variety. And so, yeah, maybe that's the direction we're all heading. Hello and good morning, says my wife. I think this is actually the first time I've said hello and good morning to her this morning. So good morning, co-counsel. I hope you are doing well. So many options that decades of sci-fi have told us is a really, really, really bad idea, says Kadar. What? Surely there are no stories about the dangers of technology, and especially not things like privacy for hugely confidential bits of information. I don't know what you're talking about, Kadar. And I like the dragon as your forum post here. What else we got? Hi from the UK. Thanks for providing entertainment while I fold and sort my fabric stash in preparation for a big move. Well, I know that is a stressful time. So good luck on your big move. I hope that you are looking forward to that. If I'm reading that particular post correctly, AU, are you moving to Australia or Austria? I don't know, but good luck with that. Absolutely. Good evening, Hoeg from Melbourne, Australia. Good evening, Tails DM. I hope you're having a good time. I hope Tuesday was kind to you in Australia. Good morning to Mrs. Hoeg. That's not me, but I'll just accept the good morning. Thank you very much. Let's see. Definitely steampunk. Okay. How much steam do I get to add to that? Do I get to wear a top hat and a monocle, or is it a cyborg monocle? Okay. We're getting there, folks. We're getting there. I think I can draw a picture of steampunk Hoeg practicing law and putting on airs with his cyberpunk monocle. I think we're getting there. We're getting there. Good morning from Ottawa, Canada, says Andrew. Good morning, Ottawa. Good morning, Canada. I know that Ian is roaming around Canada this morning. Good morning from Northern California. I almost said that as Canada. Northern Canada. Northern Canada is just like the Arctic, right? I think so. The governing body is the Law Society in the UK. Yep, that's who we're going to be reading about today. Brains. Can we get a language chip for brains? I don't know. We'll talk. Maybe we can talk about somehow figuring out a way to talk with brains. But we're in some serious trouble. We might not get back to brains in the foreseeable future, depending on how that storyline goes. Good morning, Hoeg and Mrs. Hoeg from Southeast Ohio, says Deidre. Thank you. Good morning, Ohio. We love you and your roads. Fantastic roads in Ohio. Highly recommend driving on Ohio roads. Please, 2 thumbs up. Only 27 pages, amateurs. I think it's designed for readability, honestly. It's kind of like a magazine article. It's not a law review type article. We'll look at it. It's got big pictures, the typical. I love starting my afternoon here in Austria, hanging out with Hoeg. Thank you, Stephanie. And good afternoon, Austria. I'm getting there. Different time zones. I just want the cool Jensen shades from Deus Ex, like the ones that pop out of your face. Yeah, well, we could go into a Deus Ex direction. Deus Ex, of course, is a horrible dystopia premised on government corporate interactions that command people's minds and thoughts. Hey, so maybe we're on our way. Don't know. Good morning, Tuesday, right? It's going to be a fun one. Good morning from Virginia Beach. Good morning, Virginia Beach. Brains with chips on the side. That sounds like an iZombie plot line. Good morning from Burlington, Ontario. Good morning, Ontario. We got a lot of good representation from Canada today. Good morning from Arkansas. I love that. So implant only LexisNexis and Westlaw. When? I think those are pretty much implant only as it stands right now. I don't know. You know, I run a small firm. We got to be careful with our subscriptions to these companies, even though they're very solicitous. You get a lot of emails from these companies if you run a law firm. What else we got here? Afternoon all from the UK. Isle of Wight. Isle of Wight. I don't know the Isle of Wight. Is that at all related to the kind of fantasy tropes of wights, which are like the, I don't know, floating ghost things? I have questions. This is interesting. Maybe you know. Leafy Fifu. Maybe you don't. Good morning from Milwaukee. Hoegs and Hoagies. Good morning, Milwaukee. Love Wisconsin. Fantastic state. Like I say, I got Hoags in Wisconsin. Good afternoon, you all from the UK. We're talking about the UK today. Seems like the UK makes a lot of appearances in Hangouts and Headlines, and I wonder why. I think at the extreme ends, they like to give really provocative opinion pieces, which sometimes pop up in the space. I'm skipping one, in fact, that our friend Martha Gill put up that I don't want to talk about vis-a-vis comedians, and there not being any issue with comedy, but it's just an issue with us. And so we're skipping that one. But I did think about it for a moment in time. And also like things like the Law Society, they like to get out in front of these big things and start talking about brain chips all of a sudden. So we'll be talking about that. Good middle of the night from Seattle. That's right. It's 4:30 in the morning in Seattle. Good middle of the night, Seattle. Thank you for joining me. I'm betting it's pretty dark over there. Morning coffee, Milford, Michigan, checking in. Driven through Milford. Good morning, Milford. Law Times Deus Ex. Actually, okay, stay with me now, folks. Deus Ex Revival presents whatever the equivalent of Ace Attorney is in the Deus Ex world. Combined, right? Not only do you use your cyberware to solve mysteries, because that's what video game lawyers do. I always tell my daughters, they're like, well, we play Ace Attorney all the time. Why aren't you out there like going to the scene of the crime and investigating and things like that? It's like, well, first of all, daughters, I'm not a litigator. We've been over this. But second of all, even litigators, they have people go and investigate for them. That's not maximizing their core competencies to go and dust for fingerprints at various locations, right? So while they almost certainly have relationships with the people that do, whether that's the police or detectives or whatever, they aren't generally doing what people do in Ace Attorney or other attorney-based video games. That said, it is video game land, so maybe we could have science fiction Ace Attorney. Love it. Love it. Good morning from Jacksonville, Florida. Palm tree emoji, sunglasses emoji. I like sunglasses emoji. I need some sunglass emojis when we're here in like February in Michigan, right? Just somebody somewhere is having a good, fun, sunny day. And I think that would be a good time. Hi from Sweden. Apple Pie says the top hat that goes with the cyber monocle has implants that go into your head, and that's how they get into your brain. It's like the receiver for the thing. That makes sense. That makes sense. All right, we're getting there. What else? Yes, Australia, dreading packing up my board game collection. I might not ever be allowed to leave this house because we just could never move all the board games. And somewhere my wife is chuckling over this and saying he's not wrong. No. Good morning from Seattle. Good morning from East Tennessee. Good morning from New Hampshire. Hi, Allison. Hi. Wave emoji. Marty says hi. Thanks. Late but here. Good morning from the middle of Ohio. There's no late in Hangouts and Headlines, right? Like we don't even get to the headlines for 27 minutes or whatever, as the comments like to remind me. But I like to warm up to these things anyway. I like to let people get in here. And that's why we do this. And it's also fun to see good morning from Kentucky. Good morning from Texas. Good evening to my two favorite Hoegs. Yes to the Cyborg Monocle. I appreciate the ranking on the Hoegs. I'm not going to ask which one's the favorite. But Brains is not a lawyer yet, anyways. The Brains law firm. That could work. That could work. Monocles just remind me of German generals, LOL. That's not the look I'm going for. I don't know. I guess you're right. Like that, or like a Bond villain. or something along those lines. But it would be cool. Well, maybe we could have one of those wraparound screen things. I mean, like that's kind of typical cyberpunk. But yeah. Good evening, Rick and co-counsel from the farm. I can tell you co-counsel is already envious. She loves farms. Maybe that's how he's running the franchise, through a law firm. You never know. Do they have chips in Trees of Eternity? Don't know. Huh. We'll have to ask. Matt L. with a super chat here. Thank you so much, Matt L., for the support of the channel. Good morning from Southern Ontario. Have you considered making Nobody's tagline, "Nobody wants to be your friend"? Co-counsel, write that down. That's perfect. I love it. Thank you, Matt L. That is fantastic. You know what? There's a decent chance that's going to show up on something. Oh, I love it. I love hanging out with you guys. This is fantastic. Good afternoon from Poland. Coffee cup emoji. Good afternoon, Poland. With the microchip, could Brains provide legal clerk support for Hoeg Law? Brains emoji and monocle emoji. Yeah, absolutely. We would welcome him. Now, we might have to treat him as like an intern or something. I don't know what his capacity for legal analysis is. We'd have to evaluate those things. The best part of waking up is Hoeg. I'm pretty sure it's Folgers in your cup. This has been put into my brain for like decades, but I appreciate being up there in that ranking. Good morning to my fellow Virginian. Good morning from Texas, Quebec, Canada, Australia, Cincinnati, Ohio. It's a lovely island. I think this is the Isle of Wight on the central south coast across from France. Nice. I want to be on a lovely isle on the central south coast across from France. I hope you enjoy yourself today. That's awesome. Good afternoon from the Netherlands. Hi from Germany. Smiley face emoji. It's timing. Lunchtime with Hoeg. That's right. It's a little early for me for lunch. I'm going to pass for like a few hours. But everybody else in different time zones, absolutely enjoy your lunch. Good morning from Dallas, Texas. New Zealand. Hi from the Middle Earth, UK. Okay, so like actually Hobbiton or something along those lines. Pastoral, United Kingdom. Isle of Wight is off the south coast near France. I am told, Shireen. I am told that. Sounds like a cool place to be. But I want to know if it has anything to do with like ghosts and goblins and things in like Dungeons and Dragons and whatnot. Just listen to Mark Marone's WTF podcast with Neil Gaiman all about Sandman. One day I'll do stories and we can have Elon Musk here to chat about them. And then we can just have, Neil Gaiman show up and talk about Sandman, those kinds of things. But I will check out that show. I am very interested. I was really taken with what that show put up. And I had never read the comic book. So I might, no promises, comic book fans. I might go get those comic books. Better Call Saul. I'm about a season behind. So generally speaking, because it is so serialized and because I have limited amount of time and or retention for long periods of time, I wait for seasons to finish of things that I'm invested in. I am going to watch Better Call Saul season 6 shortly, but I was waiting for it to finish. So no spoilers. Hoeg, have you played Kirby and the Forgotten Land? I'm obsessed with it. Primarily my daughter played it because we were playing it and she kind of said, I want to play it, and took the controller and then did her own thing. I actually have to get back to it because after that kind of thing happens, I move on to the next game or whatever. And so it seemed really, really cool, but I have not played it very much. Lucky says, I have a sick cat and need to go. Have a lovely Hangouts and Headlines. Heart emoji. I'm so sorry, Lucky. Sick pets are always a bummer, and I hope that your cat gets better soon. And I hope that it doesn't cost too much if it needs anything. So have a good one, Lucky. We'll be thinking about you. Thank you for letting us know. And thank you so much for the super chat and for supporting the channel so much in now and in the recent past. T in Tennessee, thank you for supporting the channel with the super sticker. I really appreciate it. As I say, we cannot do it without listeners and viewers like you because this takes a lot of time. And I really appreciate the support. Shireen says a fun thing to do is find names the settlers took with them from Britain to America. York, obvious, sure. York, Yorkies, Yorkapalooza, probably New York is the reference here, and England. Look, there's lots more. Absolutely. Mrs. Hoeg Law says, I'm never moving again. We'll just leave them behind if we had to. We're not leaving the board games behind. Seriously. There are like 4,000 things I would rather leave behind than my board games. So we can have that conversation later. I'll try to remember that I need the sunshades emoji in February. Really any of the winter months, but February seems to be the one where I'm just over it in terms of it being cold and disgusting here in Michigan. So I appreciate it. You lure us in with the fun hangouts and we stick around for whatever the article of the day is. It works. Yeah, we have fun here, right? Like that's the idea, is to have a good time talking about these various issues, occasionally being super serious about what rhetoric is presented and otherwise having a good look at some interesting stuff. Sarah Duncan, hi from the UK, with a, what is that? Like a, I'm not good at flowers. Sunflower emoji? That's not a sunflower. What are you? You're ridiculous. Daisy? Maybe a daisy emoji. Thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate the support. Maybe Brains is a very indispensable paralegals. Paralegals are indispensable. They're fantastic at helping actually get things done while the lawyers pontificate or theorize. So fantastic stuff. Pastoral Hobbits, the UK, Middle Earth. International Hoagies Assemble. Yeah, we got a lot of people visiting us from all over the place. Greetings, listening in Sydney, Australia with what looks to be, I don't know, cranberry juice, red wine, who knows? Yawning emoji, absolutely. Playing Spider-Man Remastered, ? Looks so good on the PC. Thank you, Jeff, for the super chat. I am not. I am satisfied with my Spider-Man on the PlayStation 5. So I do have the remastered version that came with getting Miles Morales on that system. But I'm hearing great things about the PC version. I don't, frankly, have a PC that would run it better than a PS5 anyway. So I'm happy with mine. I'm happy that more people get to play it. It's one of my favorite games. I think it was my third favorite game by listing in 2018. And, on further reflection, I might elevate it from there because it is one of those games that I have gone back to pretty significantly. What else here? Hoeg got bullied by his daughter. Not at all. Not at all. The experience of playing a video game in Hoeg House is that I will buy one and I will start playing with it. And either my oldest or my youngest will come in and sit by me. And about 2 minutes in, generally speaking, will say, can I play? Can I have the controller? And so Kirby is such a cute little fluff ball and matches my youngest daughter's personality so well. I said, yeah, of course. And then she just took off with it. She played it for a bunch of time to start out with, and then she took the Switch out of the dock and played it for more time, and then would just ask for help on things, but didn't need a ton of it. I'll tell you that. Joe Tracy, thank you so much for the super sticker. Much appreciated. Kaylee Lynn with the super chat. Thank you so much. I beat the main story of Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and I told my boyfriend that I beat my first Dark Souls boss. He didn't believe me until he beat it himself, rolling on the floor, laughing emoji. So I will tell you this. I know we haven't beaten it in this house because I do know that my daughter has said, I need help with the end. Is that what we're talking about? Because I actually haven't been able to get into that since she told me that and hasn't been requested. Maybe we'll do it soon. But if the last boss of Kirby, of all things, is really, really hard, I could certainly imagine my daughter coming in and saying, I need help with this. So let's see what else we have here. Truffle Hound recommendation for LawTube D&D firm name, The Brains Trust. What do we got here? Like a hug emoji or a person emoji? Brains, dragons, and the legal scales. Absolutely. Wonderful. The Brains Trust. I love it. I love it. Fantastic stuff. What is a fun game to play on your phone for a 40-ish woman? Well, I think we can find fun games no matter the demographic. I can't speak specifically to the experience of a 40-ish woman, but I tend to like on my phone things that have very bite-sized gameplay because I'm never just sitting there and playing with my phone for long periods of time. So it really depends on what you like, but certainly puzzle games, things that are easily solved within those short periods of time is what I would recommend, especially as kind of a gateway if you're not regularly playing on your phone. So it's probably a good idea to go look up the lists for the App Store if you've got an iPhone or the Google Play Store if you're on an Android, and see what's popular. I recommend, generally speaking, going with something paid, but that's not necessarily a requirement, and you can get some good experiences in free-to-play gaming. It's just a little bit more of a crapshoot. Apple Pie. Thank you so much for the super chat. Heartwarming gaming moment for you. When I was a kid, I had a hard time fighting Bison in the Street Fighter game of the ton. Being a kid, I started crying. My brother saw, started yelling at Bison and beat him for me. I love it. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. We all have those kinds of emotional stories if we were playing games as a youngster. And I think that's a wonderful thing for your brother to do. I'm sure it never went poorly with video games and your brother, like it did with mine, who erased a 90-hour save I had on one game. Love you, Tom. All right, what else we got? All right, so I think we're pretty much all caught up. We've all checked in from our various locations, I think. If you have any more, you can squeeze them in right now. But we're about to talk about Cyberlaw and the future of the legal profession. I don't think this will be a terribly long conversation necessarily, but it'll have some fun, evocative stuff for us to catch up on in the second part of the Hangouts here. Kaylee Lynn, do a Kirby postmortem with the little one. We are not quite ready to introduce the youngest Hoeg to the internet. I appreciate that. I appreciate that suggestion. She would probably be fantastic at it. But we're going to wait at least until she's as old as the current oldest Hoeg, who just did her introduction with the Stranger Things postmortem, to bring everybody into the fold, and if they want to. It's always going to be up to them. We're not bringing the family in if they aren't interested in doing that. My oldest daughter really wanted to have that conversation about Stranger Things with you all, and so we help facilitate that. But we are not about throwing our kids up on the internet or otherwise until they're ready to say, yeah, let's do that. So no, okay, fair. Hearts emoji. No, it's a fantastic suggestion. She would be awesome at it. Yeah, that's the family policy. So that's just us. I really appreciate the suggestion, and I'm glad that you had fun with Kirby. Sounds like I have some Kirby to play. I will probably play it pretty soon because I really enjoyed the first couple of levels that I did play. I demand a Better Call Saul postmortem. So I'll tell you this. I think I've said this before in other spaces. Better Call Saul is really well done. Vince Gilligan's amazing. But it hit a little bit too close to home, especially when I was starting out, having left my large law firm, right? So, business development, getting clients, the hustle, that kind of thing. The description of big law firms is pretty darn good in Better Call Saul, and the interactions that the associates have with the partners and things like that. So there was a period of time right when I left, or when I was planning leaving, where I was like, no, it's a little sensitive. So since then, we're all good. We've made it. We've kept the lights on for 6 years. We've got a YouTube channel, which I think is doing pretty well. Hello, 500 people this morning. But it was at that point in time a little much. So yeah, I'm back a season, and then I will watch season 6. I will catch up, maybe do a postmortem. I actually have to get more into the habit of doing the postmortems, because I used to do a ton of them. If you go back into the history of the channel when I was starting out, I did a lot of them because I'm interested in that stuff, as you can probably tell. But I kind of fell off it as I do, 4 hangouts a week, and I do the virtual legalities in between, and now we do Lawyers and Dragons on Saturdays and Bitcasts on Sundays. So I have to get back into doing those a little bit, while also not doing like 25 episodes of things a week, right? We do have to run a law firm. We do have to actually practice law as a lawyer from time to time, in order to help keep those lights on, of course. Law of improbability. Yep, I decided I never wanted to work in big law because of the culture. It's the truth. I have a lot of good friends at all the law firms that I've worked at. There are a lot of good people there. There's a lot of good expertise and a lot of good lawyering. I never quite matched up with what big law wanted me to be. And I was able to keep my head down and still made partner in branch offices and things like that. I'm very, very proud of that. And a lot of people look at me as crazy for essentially being made partner and then leaving the next day. It wasn't quite the next day. It was about a year later. But I don't regret it at all, except for things like, I don't know, like a global pandemic happens and work shuts down for long periods of time. That doesn't make you terrified at all. No, it's all good. But no, big law is not for everybody. I would dare say it's not for most. But I did make it there for can never do the math here properly. 11 years, 12 years before moving on to greener pastures. Stu McGinn says, please take care of yourself and don't burn yourself out. I won't burn myself out. As a matter of fact, I announced it yesterday. I'll keep saying it in these episodes. I'm not doing Hangouts next week. I'm traveling. We're going to recuperate at the end of the summer and then plow into the fall in college football. My wife reminds me that you all have not been live with me during the college football season. So I promise not to talk about it more than 90% of the episodes during the college football season. I will do my best. See here. Freelancing, it's a wild ride. That's right? Like, so, I have a law firm here. I have help in various aspects, but end of the day, it isn't so different from consulting or being a freelancer and living day to day with what is this month going to hold? Where are the clients going to come from? Where is that income going to come from? And I find that energizing, but it takes a certain kind, and certainly a lot of people that either leave big law or otherwise do other things don't find it energizing. Find it, the terror and the energy, they have to balance each other out. And so, yeah, it's a wild ride. It's a fantastic way of describing going out on your own and not having a salaried paycheck or anything else like that. Nicole's asking, so I'm saying I already have a chip in my brain because dang Hoeg, when you lost everything you do out, when do you sleep? When I list it out, we don't need to get too deep into it, but like, I'm not sleeping great, but that has nothing to do with this. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I like all this stuff. And I think we're finding a balance. We're doing Wednesdays off and trying to be pretty clean from all the stuff that I do online, and doing law during the day between the videos and video creation works out pretty well. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, but I'm having fun. I like to be busy. I like to be doing work like this stuff. Gonna miss Hoeg Law next week. Absolutely. I'm gonna miss you too. Sad face emoji. But I think it's the best way to get ready for like the fall and winter push and doing, however many weeks in a row we do. And I'm not going to miss a Lawyers and Dragons because of the way that the weeks line up. So we'll still have that. We'll still have that time. Britt, let's make a deal. If Michigan loses, why? I haven't even read the rest of this. I appreciate your support of the channel, Britt, but where does this sentence go? You get 10 minutes to talk about football the next week. If they win, you cannot talk about it all that week. I think the biggest risk that you have actually is not a Michigan win or a loss. It's some kind of inexplicable refereeing, right? I'm a lawyer still at the end of the day. And one of the reasons I love football as much as I do is because, as I describe it, it's the most litigious sports in the world. It has more rules than anything. It has a lot of judgment calls and ridiculous refereeing. And so chances are, if I sit down and watch a day of college football, I'm going to have some complaints. And that's part of what I watch it for, is to have that fun. So we'll do Hangouts version in the fall, which will have, me and two people will talk about the ridiculous referee calls of the day. And we'll go over for 20 minutes. We'll be like, look at this guy. This is ridiculous. And it'll be a good time, everybody. Reasonable minds can differ. Go Tigers. The funny part is, Winky Emoji, I didn't catch who Kate roots for. So that could be like, I don't know, Clemson. It could be, who else is the Tigers? Is Louisiana State? The Tigers? I want to say yes. A lot of Tigers around. Go Blue with the M. Oh, see, we already got people college footballing in. This is fantastic. LOL, college football. People are rabid about it. So much refereeing is inexplicable. See, this is going to be fun. You guys are at Clemson. See, fantastic. Clemson. You have a very good team. You've had a good team for a long period of time. Hoeg likes football for the refs. I grew up on baseball for the contract negotiations. After my own heart, law of improbability. See? Absolutely. I would watch referee Hoeg. Oh, man. My biggest problem is that I would want to be very granular with people. I wouldn't want to do the Ed Hockley. I wouldn't want to be a show person. But maybe I would do like memos after the game as to explaining exactly all my decisions, like I'm a Supreme Court justice. And here's why these things happened the way that they did. Because I want to blend into the background. I wouldn't want to do like the full explanation on the field. But some of these things require a great deal of additional interest. Hoeg can even make football less boring. I don't know about that. Before you write that check, I might make it way more boring. We don't know. LSU is go Tigers. Yes. Okay, good. I got that one right. Texas A&M is the Aggies. Is this like a quiz? Hook 'em horns is Texas. My dear friend Alita at Legal Bites tells me to hook 'em all the time. SEC all the way. You have all the championships, SEC. It's all right. I'm not going to take that away from you. If you're going to talk about college football, I'll need to research about it. Welcome to the fold. Co-counsel can help. We met talking about college football. No joke. So you can absolutely research it. Besides being a Michigan fan, my man is a Georgia Bulldog fan. How was that playoff game last year? Thankfully, Michigan was blown out of it so early. You're just like, yeah, all right, Georgia's better. That's all right. No big shakes there. Post brief, Hoeg will cut your ego with 10,000 knives. I don't know. These are kids playing a game. I would want to be nice to them. My school didn't have a football team, so I just root for the Badgers since they're the only college football team in the state. Is Wisconsin the only college football team in the state at the primary level? I guess that's right. I hadn't really thought about it. There isn't a Wisconsin state, is there? See, here in Michigan, we have Michigan, excuse me, and Michigan State, and they're not fast friends in the sports arena. I have a ton of friends that are Spartans. I have a ton of friends that are Wolverines. But yeah, I hadn't thought about the fact that Wisconsin only has the one major school. So that's interesting. Go Pokes. That's Oklahoma State. Cowboys. Football. Orange Heart. Absolutely. I did root for Michigan to much dismay in the Georgia game. Cheers to you. Absolutely. But as Michigan fans, we're used to kind of getting kicked in the head. So you go into that game thinking we're going to lose badly, and lo, it was so. And so it was all right. Ms. Hoeg Law says college football was kind of a requirement. Couldn't be with someone who didn't understand why I was busy all days on Saturdays. Yeah, there you go. Ed Hockley was a great NFL ref until his retirement. That sounds like a debate episode. I don't have a problem with him necessarily, but he definitely wanted to be the star of the show. Truffle Hound. Ooh, interesting. Does college football have more rules than rugby league? That's a question that needs answering. Also, go Manly Eagles, I would guess. I don't know the rugby league. Maybe I need to learn about the rugby league. If it's got a lot of rules, I love rules. It's half the reason I play board games so often. I don't care about American football, says Lindsay Metcalf. So being a soccer fan during the season crossover is always a trip. There's nothing quite like a mix of UW Dogs fans and Seahawks fans taking over the city, lol. Yeah, I can bet. So UW Dogs. What is that? Is that a soccer team? I don't know. If that's MLS, I apologize. I should know it better than I do. But I can definitely see season fans crossing over. That happens a lot in Detroit when you've got like Red Wings and Pistons games on the same night. And you have those two different sports. You should prefer the NFL since so many players are potential clients if you do criminal law. Don't do criminal law. I like college football better than the NFL. I understand the NFL players are better. It gets a little rote at the NFL level. Everybody's always close. It's always kind of a good time, but it's never really super exciting. And college football, you have, occasionally you have some kind of Division II school, Upend, Alabama, or something like that. And that's a lot of fun. University of Wisconsin Whitewater has a D3 team, I think, but UW is the only D1 team. Sure. Yeah, no, I wasn't counting the other divisions against your statement there. I was just thinking, hey, Wisconsin doesn't have a Wisconsin State. Let's go blue. Michigan all the way. Football, absolutely. Wolverines, go blue. Dogs is the University of Washington football. I thought Washington was the Huskies. Do they call themselves Dogs? I'm learning, folks. Lol, being in the UK, I have no idea how American football works, but would be fun to learn. You guys you're going to get a freaking 10 video series explaining the rules of American football if you're not careful. And then I guess a couple of videos on the differences between college football and the NFL, because why would we have the same rules for both versions of the sport? We wouldn't, right? Most litigious sport in America. Mrs. Hoeg Law says, I tell my girls that at least they need to understand the game, even if they don't love it, because it's opening to a conversation that could be valuable. Yeah, a lot of people definitely talk about. I worked in Ann Arbor professionally my whole career, so that's this town with the University of Michigan in it. We have taken a sidetrack away from cyber lawyering, but I love it. This is fantastic. This is everything I want from a conversation in the morning. Football season is the best. It's pretty funny. I used to say, I wanted when I was working. It's funny, right? You get out of school and you go to work and you realize you don't have a summer break anymore, or at least in America. I don't know how everybody else does their school year, but we would have a few months between the end of school and the start of the next school year. And we wouldn't necessarily not be working. I did my, 2L internship at law firms, and I worked at Electronics Boutique. I've mentioned that, selling retail video games and doing those kinds of things. But it's still different, right? Working in the summer and then not having a summer at all. And I used to tell my senior partners pretty early on, like my first couple of years at the law firm, it's like, I can't wait for the fall to get back because I'm looking forward to college football. I'm looking forward to going to the Big House, which is the name for the University of Michigan Stadium, and having these fun experiences. My senior partner calls me in the office. Don't you ever wish away our summer? It's like, it's fair. It's fair, especially for senior partners who are going to go to a lake house for 4 weeks and then leave the associates to figure out how to do the deal and things like that, which helped. It's a good experience. Thanks, boss. But there were senior partners who were like, don't wish away your summer. And I tell people that because there are people that are so excited about football season that they're like, let's just skip right to September. And now that we're here in the middle of August, I'm all for it. But yeah, in June and July, I try to enjoy that period of time because Michigan is warm and nice and wonderful. Carrie Berry's mom says football is a major religion in our house. Football. Yeah, absolutely. TTDS will get blown out at the shoe this year. Go Blue. That's that team down south. We'll do translations for you. That is a reference to how Michigan fans might otherwise refer to Ohio State University. I'm sorry, the Ohio State University. As long as you got that trademark locked in, we better use the full name. And the shoe is the name of the Ohio State Stadium. So this individual is a Michigan fan and saying Ohio State's going to get blown out. Your lips to God's ears, my friend. Absolutely. So with the legalization of gambling, the possibility of stipends, isn't college football just another farm team now? Seems it's lost its magic for me, and I'm a Buckeye. So I'm of two minds on this, right? So one, I think it is important that the kids, the student athletes, however you want to refer to them, be able to monetize their name and likeness in this era of, hey, look, I'm on YouTube and you guys pay me super chats and I run ads and monetize the content and things like that. I think these kids are deserving of at least that, if not more. And so I'm in favor of them having those name, image, and likeness rights. On the other hand, I don't think you're wrong. I don't think that college football is going to have the same flavor forever. I think we're still in a kind of interregnum period. And I worry that that's going to go away. But I try to tell myself psychologically that if it goes away, then at least it was because of these individuals getting paid in a way that I think is just. So if I can't have it because the structure is inherently unfair, I can't have it. But we'll see. I'm hopeful that we find some kind of balance. We're still in this weird period where nobody knows what's happening and there's huge contracts going out, and we shall see. The Ohio State University, laughing face emoji, is the stadium is in the shape of a horseshoe. That's why it's called the shoe. See, this is fantastic. We can work through these things together. That's right. They forgot to put the one end on their stadium. And so Ohio State just goes with it. They just roll without a portion of their stadium, and it becomes the horseshoe or the shoe. I heard the Big House is an experience all its own. Yes, if you like fairly genteel business conversation and being told to sit down and stop yelling so loudly, the Big House is the stadium for you. I might be sitting in the wrong sections, folks. The Big House is famously has the most people attending a game in college football, and is also not remotely as loud as most of the other really loud stadiums because of reasons. But Michigan's also known, at least at some level, for their haughtiness and pride. Go Blue. I'm a Wolverine through and through, folks. Let's see here. A game of cricket is an experience. The rules are mind-boggling. I feel like I should just learn all these sports rules. It'd be fantastic. Let's see here. Touchdown Jesus is the best. That's a reference to the Notre Dame field. Do they call it a stadium? I don't know. But yeah, Notre Dame, obviously a very, very popular school. We're still figuring out alignment as to where they're going to wind up. As far as I know, I haven't read anything about that. Okay, so we spent an extra 15 minutes talking about college football. First of all, I am very appreciative of that, everyone. Thank you so much. But let's actually just talk about this story at least a little bit. Then we can get back to college football, science fiction dystopias, Sandman, or whatever else we all want to talk about this Tuesday. But I do want to at least talk about this just a bit. So, The Times, which I'm told is a newspaper in the UK, says lawyers with brain chip implants will be better, faster, and cheaper. Now, this is labeled as UK news. This is interesting, right? Some of these outlets play a little fast and loose with what's news, what's opinion. If you've got a future-looking like verb in your headline, you probably don't want to commit to it in its entirety. I actually have this conversation with things like movie release dates or video game release dates to take it to something less serious than chipping my brain. But there are outlets that will go out with the headline of something like Hogwarts Legacy releases this Christmas season because that's what the trailer says. And I often, in my head, this is the full lawyer. If you want to get the full lawyer experience, I will say, you don't know that. You're not, you can't see the future. You're not Oracle. You're not one of the three fates. You should say that Hogwarts Legacy is announced to be released this holiday season, or that trailer says Hogwarts Legacy will be released this holiday season, because when it's announced, as it was last week, that we're pushing it back to February of 2023, that doesn't make your old headlines wrong. Your old headlines are just saying, hey, the game is coming out according to this trailer at this point in time, and that's what we know right now. Which is funny, and I have journalists actually contact me on DM and say, well, there's kind of efficiency of words, and so, you know, we put the headlines the way they will. This, we don't know whether lawyers with brain chips will be better, faster, and cheaper. What we do know is that there's a report that suggests that they might be, although these headlines are interesting enough because the report itself, as you might expect from a legal society, is far more circumspect. They're positing things about what the future might be, and these outlets grab onto whatever they think is the most salacious isn't quite the right word, but the most outrageous. What? I'm sorry, what did you just say, headline? I'm going to have to read that, right? Lawyers could have electronic chips implanted in their brain in a revolutionary step that may cut legal costs and reduce the number of solicitors needed to work on complex cases. Yes, lawyering, famous for helping reduce the workload and just add value intrinsically. A report from the Law Society suggests, you back down on that. This will be. Where's that suggests up here? Don't worry about it, the Times. Proponents of neurotechnology for lawyers have argued that corporate clients, why the corporates? There could be other clients that do this, will press for the chips as an efficiency measure, which could result in city solicitors who routinely charge £1,500 an hour, yikes, switching to billable units of attention. And that's all we have here. We're not paying for the Times for purposes of looking at this particular article. But a couple of things jump out, right? First of all, I am an absolute deal at the Hoeg Law Firm in comparison to anybody routinely charging £1,500 an hour. Just for the record, you could actually call me just to chat. You wouldn't even feel it if you're used to paying £1,500 an hour. Now, I will say, I've worked with a number of London-based attorneys that I think were in the 1,000 to 1,200 area. I haven't seen 1,500. There's actually going to be some disagreement in these articles about whether this is 1,500 or 1,000. But that, either way, is legal term of art, a heck of a lot of money. It's a heck of a lot of money. And I don't know how I would feel about charging that much if I could give you value at that level for my advice. And that's the nature of financial centers. That's the nature of New York. That's the nature of London. That's the nature of, to a lesser extent, Chicago. You get into these financial centers, and for whatever reason, the lawyers charge a bunch more money. And then you have a legal cost center that drives you crazy and drives your clients crazy. It's not what I wanted to do. So I left Big Law and I reduced my rates immediately. And I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. So there you go there. Other coverage of this is somewhat similar. Here's the Evening Standard. Lawyers could have chips implanted in their brain in bid to cut legal costs. It's a little bit better with its verb, right? Neurotechnological advances could lead to clients being billed for units of attention monitored by computers connected to lawyers' brains. Now, what's interesting about both of these articles, and really all of the ones that we saw, as I said, hey, we're going to be looking at outrageous things. This is one small part of a larger document. And for whatever reason, this is what everybody seized on. I suspect there's a kind of daisy chain here where one of these places seized on it. I was told about the Times first. They changed their date here on their masthead, but it was Monday at 12:01 BST, Britain time. Sorry. So I think it was the earliest. And then you have like the followers on saying, oh, that's interesting. I'll go get some clicks there. And of course, you have the Daily Mail, which we covered a bunch of during Depp v. Heard. They tend to take a more tabloid-esque approach. Lawyers could have electronic chips implanted in their brains to enable them to scan through documents in a fraction of the time, report suggests. I always love big, long sentence, hypothesis, what have you, with, says a report. But again, the Times didn't even put report. It's just lawyers with brain chips will be better, faster, and cheaper. We don't even have this technology yet. Come on. We could write the headlines better. And the Daily Mail actually goes through a bunch of things here. The report sets out the way the profession could change for employees and clients as a result of advances in neurotechnology. We could potentially scan documentation in a fraction of the time. Some lawyers might try to gain an advantage over competitors and try to stay ahead of increasingly capable AI systems by using neurotechnology to improve their workplace performance. I'm sorry, folks. It's not Skynet that's going to get us. It's cyber-implanted lawyers. Now, there's a horror story, huh? It's not Terminators that are coming for you. It's people with briefcases and litigation. Oh, that's a Black Mirror episode. However, the report does raise concerns that the data collected could put people at risk of surveillance or manipulation. Wait, hold on. There are potential downsides for the collection of data? That can't be. They do note that cyber implants are already being used in medicine to treat Parkinson's and tested by military organizations looking into employing cyborg soldiers. Now, I have no doubt that the military is examining these various methods of using implants and whatnot. I don't think they're probably referring to them as cyborg soldiers. Just me. Now, the Daily Mail says solicitors in London routinely charge over $1,000 an hour for their services. I don't know if there's some kind of discount between who they're talking to at the Daily Mail, between who they're talking to at the Times. But we don't have a shared number here, which at bare minimum means that it would seem that one of these folks is wrong already, just in what we're looking at, right? I have no knowledge of what the average solicitor costs in London, but it would seem that at least one of these parties is wrong. While the chips would provide a way for professionals to outperform their human and technological competitors, this could increase the pressure on lawyers to have one installed or lead to discrimination of those who choose not to. Yeah, Borg, attorney at law. I am locutus. What is your litigatory problem? But yeah, lawyers are always feeling pressure from keeping up either with their folks internally, their internal competition, co-counsel, opposing counsel, actually matching up with what these people are capable of. I've said before when we've talked about lawyering, especially with the crew of Emily, Rob, and Ian, that you always have to make the borders for yourselves of what you're willing to do, what time you're willing to give up, what balance that's going to be, no matter how the firm thinks about you, that kind of thing. And it's possible, right, that you would have this pressure. But I don't know that that's distinct from, the pressure to imbibe at closing dinners or to potentially take other enhancing materials to try to stay on top of the situation. So I'm not sure that this happens, that everybody becomes a cyborg, but it would really depend on the efficiencies and what we'll see, as was referenced in the Times, exactly what clients are asking for. A lot of the legal practice is run on, what do they need? So we have here the Law Society, which is going to be far less incendiary than the Times, the Evening Standard, or the Daily Mail. And this is folks that are going to talk about this a little bit soberly. And we're going to look at at least the executive summary. How will brain monitoring technology influence the practice of law? Neurotechnology is used to interact directly with the brain by monitoring and recording brain activity or acting to influence it. Advances in decades to come could lead to lawyers grappling with the human rights implications of brain monitoring and manipulation. Neurotechnology can be implanted in the brain, but it may also be external to the body in the form of a headset, wristband, or helmet. I'm not sure about this one. Do you consider like a helmet that can read your brain scans as neurotechnology? I guess it is in the broadest sense, but I think we're most concerned about chipping ourselves and whatnot. Our latest Horizon Scanning Report, future-looking report, Neurotechnology Law in the Legal Profession, sets out the challenges and opportunities that developments in neurotechnology may bring and impact it may have on cognitive performance and the way lawyers work. How it will affect you. Look, we got little pictures. Who wrote the report? We got links, folks. Let's dive in. Look at this big picture. You know that they mean business when they put a big, like, Photoshop picture in here. What does it mean? It means you will have the galaxy in your brain. Now, honestly, if this whole neurotechnology thing were more about playing No Man's Sky just within your mind, I think I'd be more into it than what they describe, which is fast document review, which is not as exciting for me, going to be honest. Forward. What are the implications of neurotechnology for the law and the legal profession? This is the complex question we attempt to answer in this Horizon Scanning Report. Neurotechnology is a scientific field that consolidates and connects electronic devices with the nervous system. Neurotechnology can pose interesting and complex ethical and legal issues since it can be used to create a so-called interface between the brain and computers. Neuralink is an example of this technology, which is initiated by inserting a microchip into the brain. The brain-computer interfacing technology is arguably a positive step towards merging humans and artificial intelligence. We might have different definitions of positive, y'all. The proponents argue that this technology could allow humans to overcome disorders such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, blindness, anxiety, depression, and insomnia. Blindness is just a Geordie LaForge reference. The opponents argue that this technology will be overly invasive and could create unanticipated complications. Where do you fall, chat? I'll be reading your chats on this topic when we get done reading this article. Neurotechnology presents novel ethical and legal issues which should be carefully considered beforehand. For example, what if a person commits a criminal act by using the implanted microchip? Then it's just a tool. Then they're liable just as they would be otherwise. Who would be responsible for the criminal violation? The person that does it. So if another person somehow manages to control the electronic device to commit the violation, how would the courts address the legal issues? The person controlling the device would do it. In essence, how do we regulate human mental capacity? There are other questions that can come up with implementing this technology. For example, could solicitors, that's lawyers to you and me, it's the UK, one day be instructed to use a microchip to enhance their mental capabilities? No, this would be an outrageous violation of human rights. You cannot be ordered to chip yourself to participate in the bar. I will fight that one to the death. Maybe I will be fighting it to the death in 20 years. I have no idea. Could the courts force known, we lost this word here, I think that's known offenders to use special microchips so their brain activities are monitored and controlled by a government agency? Then we get into cruel and unusual, not in the UK necessarily, but having that conversation. Brain implants are not entirely new technology since they have been used in medical interventions. However, merging microchips and artificial intelligence is relatively new and untested currently. There are multiple ethical and legal issues that will arise. First, there are privacy concerns. I don't know that that's the first, but yes. Second, the individual's identity can be stolen without permission. Like literal identity, probably. Third, the individual's autonomy can be taken away. That's not great. Fourth, the culprits, hackers, can exploit the technology and manipulate individuals for self-serving purposes. You see, you're itemizing things that are pretty significant problems. You think that they can hack a person's body with this technology. That ain't great, Bob. The debate on whether and how we should make our brains ready to be plugged to technical devices must begin today, August 16th, 2022. We must discuss which are the risks we are willing to take and whether there are paths in this uncharted territory that we may not wish to enter. Law firms can develop their client base in new directions, and perhaps some firms will try to become known for specializing in ethical issues related to neurotechnology. Lawyers, in my opinion, are not the best at framing out ethics questions, by the way. Ethics is a function of philosophy. Lawyers are different. Other new opportunities might involve guiding neurotech clients through the regulatory process or advising them on other legal issues. That is what lawyers do. If neurotechnology were to take off in the workplace or the context of consumer devices, there might be scope for providing advice on related employment law and consumer law issues. Right. This is a law society. So they're saying here's how your firm could potentially make money. It is hard to know how widespread the uptake of neurotechnology might ultimately be, but to neglect it would be unwise, particularly given the backing of neurotech projects from investors like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and Facebook. Everybody's three favorite persons and entities on planet Earth. Absolutely. Executive summary. This report contends that in the coming years, neurotechnology will make an impact on the law, thereby creating challenges and opportunities. Looking further into the future, it may also impact on the way lawyers work and their cognitive performance. Hopefully it doesn't make you stupider. The precise magnitude and nature of the impact is uncertain. It is further contended that decisions about how to respond to the neurotechnological trend that is now emerging will need to be made at the level of society. Okay, so it has to be collective regulatory action, according to this paper. That's going to be a reasonable minds can differ cognitive assertion as well. So that's interesting in and of itself. Decisions may well also be required of bodies that provide legal education, law firms, and individual legal professionals. The report unpacks what neurotechnology is, its emerging ripples of impact in society, and the potential challenges, opportunities, and questions facing the legal profession and the practice of law. What is neurotechnology, and what can it be used for? I like to imagine whenever you ask questions of yourself in these documents, like it's a Sesame Street, and someone is just asking, Elmo, these various questions. So that's why I read them that way sometimes, just so you know what's going on in my head when I read questions asked of oneself. Neurotechnologies are technologies that interact directly with the brain, or more broadly, the nervous system, by monitoring and recording neural activity and or acting to influence it. Sometimes neurotechnology is implanted in the brain, but it may also be external to the body in the form of a headset, wristband, and helmet. Neurotechnology can be used to treat neurological conditions such as Parkinson's disease, and perhaps one day many others, including dementias, which would be very, very cool, no doubt. In relation to psychiatric conditions, the hope is that depression, anxiety, and a variety of other mental issues will one day also be treated by way of neurotechnology. And here we get into danger areas as to, what is clinical and what is not, and exactly what the medical field would do. Ethics, like I said, lawyers not trained in it. Non-therapeutic neurotechnologies, such as those employed in computer gaming and the monitoring of working attention in the context of employment, are currently available and used by some companies and individuals. Neurotechnology has attracted significant military interest, and some military institutions are considering the prospect of cognitively enhanced super soldiers, or as the Daily Mail describes them, cyborg soldiers. Whilst it is not clear precisely how the neurotechnological trend will develop, the prospect of widespread use of neurotechnologies is fueling commercial excitement. Why consider neurotechnology? In a world where some people could connect their brains directly to the internet and thereby post to social media without bodily action, obviously the highest form of human ideal, post to social media without even thinking about it. Others control drones by way of brain-computer interface, and still others manage their epilepsy by way of brain implants that algorithmically monitor and from time to time electrically stimulate their brains. It is time to ask what the implications of neurotechnology are for the law and the legal profession. Those are very cool things for like epilepsy and whatnot. This question is becoming pressing as investors such as Elon Musk are backing neurotechnology, as are companies such as Meta, Facebook. Organizations such as the New York-based Neural Rights Foundation are worrying about the technology's human rights implications, and some countries are starting to take legislative action to address the coming challenges. Of particular note in this respect is the 2021 change to the Chilean constitution that took place in response to concerns about emerging neurotechnologies. I literally have no idea what happened to the Chilean constitution. Anybody from Chile here in chat? I'm curious about what they put in their constitution vis-a-vis cyborgs and implants and cyberware and whatnot. So if you know, let me know. Flag me down. Ethical, social, political, and economic issues. A very important ethical upside to neurotechnological development is their potential to significantly alleviate suffering caused by neurological and psychiatric conditions. Conversely, the large amount of brain data that these technologies are likely to accumulate give rise to concerns about mental privacy. So I actually think that there's an ethical consideration here at the top in terms of when it's appropriate to chip someone. I think that's something that psychiatry and those kinds of things, just right now with drugs, deal with. So I don't know that we should skip that question when there are more tools, but yes, we move on to data. This brain data might give the companies or governments that have access to it the capacity to make inferences about the mental world of users of the technology, about their predisposition to neurological and psychiatric issues, and their likely future behavior. Okay. So not only is it just kind of data and sales and privacy here, they're a little bit concerned about Minority Report in this particular concept. This capacity may also give rise to a power to manipulate people, a power that would only be increased if the technology is also right to the brain, perhaps by way of electrical stimulation, adding to the threat to individual autonomy and the democratic system. So, okay, we're starting out with some of the concerns. I get it. These are pretty major concerns. I'm not going to lie. I think it's cool that we can help epilepsy issues and things like that. I would be a little bit concerned about writing to the brain and minority reporting at a criminal level. At some point, a division might arise between those who are neurotechnologically and perhaps otherwise enhanced and have greater cognitive skills and those who are not. Some individuals may see neurotechnological enhancement as a way of outdoing competitors in the market for jobs and also as a way of keeping up with AI systems as those systems increase in their capacity to disrupt the employment market. Or if you're just super nihilistic and dystopian, this sounds like the perfect way to enact some kind of Harrison Bergeron protocol if you were so inclined. So, yeah, get excited, people. Regulation, legal doctrine, and human rights. Some neurotechnology has a clear therapeutic aim, and yet other neurotechnology requires no surgical intervention and has no therapeutic aim. It will be necessary to consider whether current regulatory systems are adequate, given that some devices may monitor and stimulate the brain for non-therapeutic purposes. We're going to have to get some laws in there, folks. Neurotechnologies are likely to bring challenges in many areas of law, including employment, consumer protection, and a host of others. Yeah, can you imagine a breach of warranty on your brain chip? Yikes. To take criminal law as an example, one might ask what conduct constitutes the actus reus, lawyers, the criminal act. What? So, okay, at the point in time where you're writing this, why not just write criminal act? If you have to put a parenthetical around it, you know what? Forget it. Where a person injures another by controlling a drone or other system by thought alone. Moving to sentencing, would it be acceptable for criminal justice systems to monitor and perhaps even intervene on offenders' brains by way of neurotechnological device whilst they are serving sentences in the community? And that's a Black Mirror episode right there. This latter question raises human rights concerns, and there is now an important debate as to whether existing human rights protections are fit for purpose given the possibility of brain monitoring and manipulation. The human rights issues extend well beyond criminal law and into other areas of law. This is just true. Legal education and the legal profession. In time, legal educators might start to face new questions relating to equity and academic integrity. For example, what kinds of neurotechnological assistance are permissible in relation to assessment tasks? What if some students have access to performance-enhancing neurotechnologies and others do not? So we're worried about testing there, but to some level, you're just trying to test what their actual abilities are. Some lawyers might try to gain an advantage over competitors and try to stay ahead of increasingly capable AI systems by using neurotechnology to improve their workplace performance. We saw this as one of the quotes that the journalist seized on. Perhaps clients might pressure folks to do this, and one can imagine changes to billing that may be brought about by the attention monitoring capacities of neurotechnologies. This might even prompt a move from billable hours to billable attention. Now, this is the executive summary. We'll look at the section that this takes place in. This is really all that gets reported on in most of these papers, right? In the headlines that we saw. We've obviously already talked to a greater extent about the fact that this article is positives and negatives, puts a whole host of horribles in front of us before they start talking about billable hours and attention. And what gets reported out to the populace, right? This is still a headlines episode, folks, is just, hey, wouldn't it be weird if lawyers chipped their brains and then they had to move from billable hours to billable like concentration points? You say, oh, okay, all right. It's kind of missing the beats here. Looking to the future, to meet some of the challenges addressed in the report, law will need to have a role in rising to address various very serious, my God in heaven, don't make me say that, human rights issues, in particular those relating to privacy, surveillance, and manipulation of people's behavior by those who develop and sell neurotechnology or perhaps others. Wait, no, a company would never put in a back door to take control of people's brains. That would be absurd. The stakes are very high in relation to these matters. The law may also need to consider issues of equity of access to the technologies, device safety, and concerns about algorithmic bias. Law has the opportunity to attempt to maximize the upside and to minimize the downside of the technological developments described in this report. No, again, lawyers think very highly of themselves. The law cannot itself change scientific advancement and minimize the downsides and increase the upsides of these various things. The law can regulate. The law can punish. The law can try to define things. But to the extent things slip outside the law, they become black markets. Lawyers think very highly of their ability to shape society. And I have to say, this is inaccurate. In terms of practical steps, law reform bodies need to start to consider the emerging trends with input from civil society and the companies who develop the technologies. While such consideration is important, it is necessary not to overestimate law's impact in relation to other approaches to influencing technological development, which will also need to be employed. Okay, so at least they back down on it a little bit in a couple sentences. Reflection on neurotechnology and other technologies provides the opportunity to respond by encouraging an anticipatory style of thinking in students and to foster the development of critical thinking skills, which we love here in Hangouts and Headlines, whether students are learning the law for the first time or are engaging in continuing professional development. However, educational institutions might be challenged by novel questions relating to neurotechnological forms of academic misconduct. Law firms have the opportunity to develop their client base in new directions, and perhaps some firms will try to become known for specializing in issues relating to neurotechnology. It is hard to know how widespread the uptake of neurotechnology might ultimately be, but to neglect it might be regretted, particularly if, as has been speculated, brain implants or wearable devices might become the iPhone of the future. Yes, holding a brick that takes your phone calls exactly the same as chipping your brain and potentially letting corporations, governments, or others rule your body. Importantly, given the technologically close connection with the brain and mind, and perhaps even the creation of cyborgs, we do get it. We get a cyborg reference, folks. This should not just be thought of as straightforwardly a variation on existing approaches to technology in the context of legal practice. Moving into the future, it might be worth considering the possibility of lawyer and technology becoming less distinct than they now are. Lawyer, technology, and legal technologists may need to think about how this could impact upon their work. From the perspective of more traditional individual legal practitioners, the possibility of developing a neurotech client base and reputation or engaging with interesting new legal issues, which I do love, might be attractive, but the more distant possibility that neurotechnological enhancement and brain monitoring might one day become expected of them may be less so. Hey, look, I like talking about this stuff, but if you're going to require me to chip my brain, I've got issues. There are opportunities for bodies such as the Law Society to consider these issues in discussion with its members and other stakeholders in order to decide how to respond and help shape the neurotechnological sphere. So for the most part, it's a legal paper, right? Here's how law firms could address it. Here are the considerations we have. A lot of this sounds bad. Some of it sounds good. There's a whole paper here. It's linked in the one link that goes directly to the Law Society's page. And all the journalists really kind of jumped on is that lawyers might chip themselves at some point and that they might otherwise have to do something other than the billable hour, right? Like that's out of all these pages that you see me scrolling through right now, that's what folks got out of it. They got this paragraph primarily. Perhaps the day might come when some clients prefer cognitively enhanced lawyers who only work on their matters when they are fully attentive. Whilst the legal profession currently has a variety of approaches to billing, including forms that are responsive to the employment of technology in legal work, one metric that many lawyers will be familiar with, perhaps too familiar, they suck, is that of billable hours. In light of the development of attention monitoring neurotechnologies, the billable hours metric might become too crude for some clients who might prefer to pay for billable units of attention. In this connection, it is interesting to note that the practice of billing by the hour, which arose in the 1950s, was initially client-driven, coming from in-house legal departments. Maybe the in-house legal departments of neurotech companies might one day drive the development of the billing innovation considered here. The shift to billable attention would involve the gathering of lawyers' brain data, which could perhaps be reused for other purposes, such as making inferences about things other than their states of attention. The mental privacy dimension of a firm's brain monitoring system, You think those surveys that they make you answer that are anonymous are bad enough, folks in Big Law? Wait till they have the brain monitoring systems. Seems unsettling to say the least, and one may well see such billing practices as concerning for other reasons, not the least of which is I'm not sure about accuracy and different people's brains work differently. Can you imagine trying to assert whether I was doing the proper legal work while also trying to figure out whether Ian Runkle is doing the right paperwork and brain work with their chips when we have brains that operate so differently? I wouldn't want to do that. And that's really what this paper says. So it's not this headline. It's not this headline exactly. Could, maybe. It could happen. It's kind of a pontification. It's certainly not like this giant headlines other than could have, right? It's much more nuanced. And that's the world of reporting, right? And so that's what I wanted to talk about. Obviously, cool subject matter. I wanted to also talk about how it was reported. I know we got a bunch of super chats on this. I'm going to get to them. But folks, what do you think, right? We've talked about a lot of interesting stuff here. I do think that perhaps this article glosses over some of the really bad things that could happen out of that chip situation that we haven't even worked out with respect to iPhones, for God's sakes, and data and privacy and everything else. So until we kind of get to a solution on all of that, I'm reluctant as an individual to chip my brain for you all. I love you, clients. I like to provide value. I'm your friend. We're going to get through this together. I am not mechanically or otherwise changing my body in order to better serve you. I'm sorry. That's where I draw the line. But what do you all think? Should I be forced to? Hey, Hoeg, you have to get a brain chip in order to be a lawyer. Is that my future? Is that what the Law Society suggests might happen? What do you all think? All right, let's hit some of those super chats before we get down to business on that. Trufflehound, no one in the history of time ever has called a lawyer to make their life simple and economical. Never happened, ever. Yes, lawyers are not generally who you want to be talking to. We are the ones that have questions and say no to things and say, hey, you're going to have to handle this regulatory issue or otherwise in order to do this thing that you otherwise want to do and you think should be simple. And I tend to agree. So yeah, generally speaking, folks don't want to talk to their lawyers on these particular topics. And yet we can still be more simple and economical than our competitors. We can still offer more value than other people might. And that's always the goal, at least for me. Lindsay Metcalf, they keep saying brain chips will lower costs as if it wouldn't be massively expensive to develop this tech and then perform the implantation procedure. They do skip the notion of what it would cost. They talk about equity. They talk about the fact, presumably, that those more well-resourced would have access to better technology and they could increase gaps and things like that. But they don't really mention it. Like, we aren't at a commercial level. We haven't invented the technology at all yet. We're leagues away from actually commercializing that tech in a fashion that it could be available to most of the people. And that just gets skipped and glossed over in its entirety. So I agree with you, Lindsay. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the super chat. Trufflehound, we need to incorporate the Brains Trust. All right, appreciate it, Trufflehound. It's a great idea. It's a great name. Thank you for the support. Just because, but can you get clients to get chips implanted so they'll actually tell you the info for their incorporation papers? This hits close to home just because. No, I just need your contact info. Yeah, no, I need that. What do you want the name of your entity to be? Right? No, the name. Right. Okay. Yeah, no, you can send it to me in email. 8 weeks later, card comes up. It's like, did you incorporate us yet? No, what? No, I don't. You never got me the information. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Clients are clients. They don't like talking to the lawyers necessarily. And getting the information out is sometimes a trick. Sometimes a trick. Thank you for the support. Britt says, super black pill take. That chip will have software. If that software is programmed to ignore some areas of the law, then it can memory hold specific precedents, especially if lawyers on both sides and the judge are all chipped. Oh, yeah? Like, there'll either be a regulatory or corporate kind of reform that will just change history by eliminating references to things. Could be. Although I would hope that there was enough outside folks that didn't have that same chip situation that they could comment on the issue being wrong. But like I said, when I mentioned you could use these things as a Harrison Bergeron kind of model, they could. And that would look a little bit like that. Thank you, Brett, for the support. I really appreciate it. Trufflehound, wasn't there an announcement the other day about the creation of 100% synthetic embryos? We literally live in sci-fi, guys. We're living in Ex Machina, hopefully with a little bit less violence. Maybe. Yeah, I hadn't seen that story, but I'll look out for it. Thank you, Trufflehound. I really appreciate it all day for the support. Britt, controlling a person's motor skills and using a chip to enhance memory are different areas of the brain. Their argument of being turned into an assassin falls a bit short, in my opinion. Well, that's the problem with papers like this, right? A horizon scanning paper is they just take neurotechnology and apply it to everything. We're just talking about anything that one could imagine you could do with technology in the brain. So it's motor function as well as memory and reading documents faster and things like that. So it falls a bit short into what those technologies might be, but the assumption is that they will all be developed. And then how does that look? And would it be the same chip? I can't speak to that. I am definitely not a neuroscientist. But you're right that they definitely steal some bases and slide around a little bit by just saying neurotechnology on the whole. Thank you so much, Britt. Tracy says, people post social media without thinking already. No neuroscience needed. I like it because, see, the implication is people are stupid and they put up things without thought, and it's true. So it's a great post. I appreciate it. It's almost a pun. Thank you, Terry, for the support. Carrie says, I can see the lawsuits now. I didn't do it. My chip made me do it. It malfunctioned. I'm not responsible. I was hacked. Laughing, closing her eyes emoji. Yeah, That would definitely be attempted as a defense. And that would mean that you'd need tracking software to monitor the analytics of the chip, which means if you have that possibility so that you can get in front of situations like that where that defense would be claimed, then that data is being collected and stored and maintained by someone that might otherwise be able to manipulate it. So welcome to our new hell. Good morning, Tuesday. Xcomer ZZZ, chip or no chip? No chip for me. Thank you very much. Absolutely. I might be willing to do helmets and things for video games, but no specific chip for lawyering. I'm out at that point in time. You'll just be stuck with me as a YouTuber talking with you all without a chip. No chip YouTubing until Alphabet requires you to be chipped so that they can check for content ID in your brain. Yikes. I shouldn't give them any ideas. Carrie Harvey, how long until we see discriminatory language like anti-chippers? You know, those people, kind of swirly eyes emoji because we don't do enough othering already. Yeah, I think that's part of what that article is talking about, right? With the added problem of it probably being expensive to chip yourself as well. So that there would definitely be splits. And these things are examined. If you go and play the game series Deus Ex, particularly Mankind Divided, which, as you might tell from the subtitle, is really about the differences between non-cyber enhanced and cyber enhanced individuals. You do have these kinds of things playing out in science fiction. And I have to agree with the prior poster. We do appear to be living in science fiction a little bit. And so I think these questions are important. They're necessary. I don't think they're quite as necessary as the Law Society puts them in this particular light, but we're getting there. We're getting there. I don't know if it's my lifetime or not, but yeah. Rob getting in the mix. Don't lie, Mrs. Hoeg Law. I bet there are times when you wish you could microchip Hoeg's brain. He'd be so compliant. I'm always compliant, respectful, honoring and obeying, all those good things with my spouse, Rob. You know this. Never, ever have we ever gotten into a ridiculous, irrational fight. That would never happen with us. Yeah, no, I'm no chipping. So your chip is broken, Rob. Rogue Rob. Woohoo. That's right. I'm also not taking advice from a man that is clearly a bot, an sentient AI that has already presaged the future in the land of YouTube. What else we have happening here? Forget brain chips, Hoeg. Just get shock collars for the lawyers. That would be exciting. Can you imagine? Imagine Elaine Bredehoff in Depp v. Heard getting shocked every time she forgot to turn her microphone on. I don't know if that would actually work, honestly, folks. At some point, it just becomes mean. Compliance, best part of being chipped. Yay. It's fantastic. Brain chips just seem like a Theranos project, meaning fake, I assume. Futuristic idea, great PR, debatable benefits, but no math showing their work. Oh, I think we are much further away than this article would seem to indicate. But to some extent, I respect the futurist type approach to writing these things. What would this look like if it were on our doorstep is important to think about early. But yeah, I don't actually envisage any of this happening in my lifetime. So yeah, it's years and years and years away. They'll put a Raspberry Pi and open source the software. $35 in a dream. DIY brain chipping. That doesn't run the risk of going wrong at all. Hey, I wonder if those microchips would set off metal detectors. And also, how long would security take in airports if everyone is chipped? It depends on how much of your autonomy you give up. Presumably, you could have whatever the TSA's check-in chip approval be so that they can monitor all of your behavior at all times, and then you can just walk right through. And as we've learned, certain people will absolutely give up all of that for the benefits of something like a short security line. So Carrie says, client's going to client. They are. You don't know what they're going to ask for. You don't have to accede to every client's demands, but they might ask for this kind of stuff. Sue says, please put the computer inside my lawyer, please. Happy face emoji. Reasonable minds can differ, folks. You want chipped lawyers. Could happen. The ADHD brains would break the chip. I would be really curious about that actually on a scientific level. I mean, that's different ways of thinking about things, right? And if you can't bill for it properly, then what are you doing? Nicole, clients never send the info you need and then get mad when their work isn't completed yet. Drives me batty. I love my clients. I'm going to say that as a disclaimer. Also, yes. Borg Law. First of all, the law firm that describes their new neurosciences specialty as Borg Law, they're getting my work. I just want to say that up front. I'm hiring Hoeg for my small business. I LLC'd myself all on my own. Hey, thanks to Heather's. Yeah, no, absolutely. And honestly, this is where I got in trouble with big law. Depending on your jurisdiction, one of the things I would often say is, well, you could probably do like a single member filing yourself, and I'll walk you through it, and I wouldn't charge and that kind of thing. Again, I'm not the greatest at min-maxing the revenue streams. Big Law doesn't love that. And so, yeah, I prefer to sleep at night. Will says lawyers will probably be bragging how they aren't chipped as a selling point. Lots of people are afraid of tech. I'll admit, I don't wear suits. I use that as a selling point. Lots of people don't want their lawyers in suits. So a lot of people might not want their lawyers in chips. Chip land. Absolutely. There's a horror movie about it called Upgrade. I bet there's a bunch of horror movies about chipped and cyber stuff and whatnot. Kate says, who woke up and decided that life would be improved by putting chips in brains, specifically lawyers? Well, this is a law society because otherwise a bunch of the headlines read like, we finally got chip technology. Who should we use it on? The lawyers? Yes, the lawyers. Not quite. No. Could someone get Joe in here? Would love to hear his thoughts on being chipped. I suspect they're antagonistic towards the idea. Robo judges, that's the answer. Stick 100% to the letter of the law. No opinion. Great for sentencing. This seems like the debate between having robot umpires like laser strike grids and not. So that would be an interesting consideration to have. Chip me all day, says Joe. Give me that cyber enhancement. I want to live in Deus Ex. Can't blame you. There's some cool stuff there. Helmets, yes. Chip, do more research. I don't know. Depending on the helmet, you can get into a whole Sword Art Online situation. Oh, yeah. Yep. Weird references, I know. Nicole says, did no one see Strange Days? I think in point of fact, when Strange Days was released, no one did see it. And then people saw it when it was on HBO. Strange Days is a cool little movie. But yes, they have a whole thing with memories and like videos. See here. Heather says this is why we need Medicare for all, so we can get the chip. The government provided Medicare chip. I'm not sure. We'd have to do some research on that, definitely. What could go wrong? Closing eyes, laughing, emoji. What else we got here? LawTube subs, ethics, practical issues. Also, I habitually listen 2 times speed. Faster you go, the less you get subtext, the more you miss. You don't understand something. I don't know if that's a comment on the chip or not, but it could be because they're talking about how fast you go through documents. Britt says, my point was that we see Google doing it now with pushing down results it feels are untrustworthy. The software can and will do the same thing, not at first, but generations from now. I think it's a worthy consideration. I just was envisioning it more as that kind of black hole of it just in kind of the most obvious dramatic way of we just can't all remember a town in America or something along those lines. But yeah, if you have it controlling your mental faculties and then you have somebody come in there and say we should only listen to authoritative sources, right? I have a whole screed on Google's statements about authoritative sources on this channel. I got in a little trouble for it from YouTube. So you can check it out. And I did that because it wrongly positions these kind of platforms or intermediaries as the arbiters of truth and that kind of thing. And that's never going to work for me because it's easy enough to see when people are being stupid. We have to use our critical thinking skills, and we can't outsource that to folks that run Alphabet. We can't outsource that to the folks that run our brain chips. But it would be difficult to even see the issue if the brain chips are as effective as this article we just read posits. So I hear you, Brett. I just think it's a long way off. Let's see. We got a lot of here. I go through security with with screws and no issues. Yeah, they're not generally picking up small stuff. And at the time that this stuff actually works, I mean, probably talking like nano or something like really small. Hoeg is a man of the people. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I like to think so. I don't know why. This is why we love you, Hoegs. I don't know what I said. I appreciate it. Are you chip certified? No, I mean, like, I don't know. People keep telling me to try the Canadian all everything chips. Ian hasn't sent me any yet. But no, definitely not chips and brains. Upgrade is a great film. All of the sci-fi movies are about digital entertainment now. Dollhouse was awesome. Dollhouse was also pretty scary. Like if you actually think about that premise. Yeah, let's see here. That Sarah, ADHDers wouldn't break the chip. We just need a different model. Right. Then folks might finally understand that our brains simply run on a different OS. Yeah, I think you would have to work through the issues of different ways that people think about things, especially when you're trying to get to something as precise as you can only bill for this thing you're concentrating on. What does that look like in one brain versus another brain? And maybe you could set baselines. I don't know. But these are certainly kinds of things that you'd have to worry about if that's your livelihood, right? Like if you can't properly bill, then you can't keep your lights on. You can't feed your kids, and that's a problem. Lindsay Metcalf, thank you for the support. Apple would make an iChip that isn't compatible with any of the other chips platform software or hardware, which has to be replaced every 2 years. The Apple walled garden. And it would be literal. The people with Apple chips would actually live in a walled garden city, apart from the rest of society, whose chips don't otherwise interact with theirs. That would be interesting. And that walled Apple garden could have some kind of, I don't know, biblical pronouncement. We're working on this. We got a sci-fi script going. Get back to me. We're going to figure this out. Amber Polston, would a chip lawyer allow for accurate billing? Each thought about the case equals a charge. Maybe you could do de minimis kind of stuff and charge it that way. Certainly clients have different feelings about how your increments per hour actually are set, tenths and quarters and things like that. So you could do that. Maybe it would result in more. Maybe what you would have happen is that clients would ask for it, and then they would see that they're actually getting billed a lot more, and they would immediately reject it. That wouldn't happen. Actually, what would happen is they'd reduce the prices until they were effectively the same, and then nobody would be better off, and everybody would be freaked out about what they were thinking about during the workday. Hey. Hoeg Law with the modern world. These chips would need a monthly subscription payment, and if you stopped, presumably it would turn off, but I think there's a threat there that it would take you out. I think the concern is actually overblown. Just use calibration phrase with machine learning. Okay. Total recall should change that idea altogether. Total recall. We have to get our ass to Mars. It's very true. Very true, Mr. Schwarzenegger. It's like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer college years. Everybody blanks out on the college years. Nobody remembers Riley. I don't. Let's see. I have OCD. Yeah, different brains are going to function differently. So it'll be interesting to see how those all interacted with the chip. And I think we've gotten through all the super chats. We've gotten through all the chats. It's almost 9 a.m. here in the Eastern time zone. Folks, what a wonderful conversation. We covered college football. We covered neurotechnology, brain chips, implants, science fiction, dystopias, maybe a utopia in there for our chipped lawyer friends. And I just want to say thank you for hanging out with me this morning. Thank you for hanging out with me almost every morning in Hangouts and Headlines. I really appreciate it. I do want to point out, we do not have a Hangouts and Headlines tomorrow. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Wednesday is our off day. But then we will be back on Thursday in Hangouts, and I might get a virtual legality video out on some subject or another in the next little while as well, if you're otherwise missing me. And I think I'll be around the internet in other capacities as well. So thanks, everybody, for dropping in. Had a fantastic Hangouts and Headlines. Everyone have a wonderful Tuesday, and stay safe out there. If you do get chipped, let me know. I'm going to have some questions.